deadplants.exe. Once when I got bored on my computer, I decided to play a game that I haven't before. I have heard great reviews for Plants vs. Zombies, so I decided to check it out. I searched for a torrent, and I found one that had seemed very much like the kind I was wanting to see. I could only get one seed for the torrent, so it took a whole day to download. The next day after it finished, I opened it up. It was in a folder called old C plant, rather than being named Plants vs. Zombies East.exe or PVC.exe. The application and was called deadplants.exe. When I open it, it seemed normal except for a few minor differences, such as how the music sounded a bit off key, higher than usual. When I clicked on the button for the adventure mode, it never showed the animation of the hand and rising up from the ground, nor did it play the sound effect exact goes with it. The call played at the beginning of the stage was replaced by a scream, which made me jump at first. Other than that, it seemed normal. The first level seemed harder than usual, even with only one lane to defend. The zombies ended up being one of my pea shooters. The next stage seemed a bit difficult too. The zombies came a bit early, and one of them actually got two of my pea shooters. I wondered why someone would make a game so much more difficult like this. Despite the raised difficulty, I pushed on. While playing through the first few night stages, I noticed a few weird things. The sky was dark and starry rather than clear. The grays, rather than having silly or comical inscriptions on them, it had names of celebs that died recently, such as Amy Winehouse or Michael Jackson. I wondered if whoever hacked this version of the game put that up as a joke, because I didn't find it very funny. Whenever I used the Grace Buster, a message popped up that said, "Why? Was this game trying to teach kids a lesson?" Later on in the game, the music seemed to be messed up. In the fog levels, the pitch of the music got higher after each level, until at the last level it was almost unbearable. Then it was the first roof level. In place of the music was faint static. With each level, the static got louder and louder, until it was so loud I had to turn off the music. Instead of the last level was the Zombot, when I finished the last roof stage, it went to a black screen with white text saying, "Why did you do this to us?" I wondered what it meant. After that, the game went into a level that looked like the one at the beginning, except it was half as large, and then there was another lawn on the other side of the screen. That was an exact mirror image of the lawn I was landing on. In the beginning, when it showed the zombies that I would encounter at the level, it was empty. I selected the following plants: sunflowers, pea shooters, repeaters, Quint sunflowers, magnetic shrooms, coffee beans, torchwood, and tons. I still had only 8 slots. I turned the music back from before, but it appeared that at this level didn't have any music anyways. The level played out a bit normal at first. I could only be planted on the lawn on the left. I got the chance to plant 5 sunflowers before anything else happened, and then on the other side, a pea shooter appeared. Except this pea shooter looked really creepy. In place of its eyes were dark, soulless voids. Unlike with most creepy bosses I have read prior, the eyes didn't have any red people in the middle or anything, just dark, black, soulless voids. It started firing peas at the sunflower he had in that row. Except the piece it fired was old, deceased and rotten. It ended up killing my sunflowers like in some spot me. Then, after that, 2 sunflowers were planted in the lane above it. And they had the same black, dark, soulless void for eyes. It was then that I realized that these were the plants that have been eaten by zombies. Whenever less plants on the other side were planted, the screen grew a bit darker and less saturated. The plants' number were getting overwhelming. All my plants were dying quicker than I could plant new ones, and I could barely able to kill any of the opposing plants. I knew this would not go well. When the screen was about twice as dark, I guess it should be, the saturation had already been reduced to grayscale. After a while, the screen was almost too dark to see. At that point, my plants had already been weakened to just a few sunflowers and pumpkins. The screen was starting to blur itself, and it stopped to the point where I could barely even see what the hell was going on. Eventually, the screen kept deteriorating to a point where the whole screen would just turn black. At that point, I could also hear the crunching sound on that plate it went in the zombie makes it to your house. Instead of the normal stop that plays, the screen just turned white for about 7 seconds. Then turned vertically striped red and white. And I could hear a horrible, distorted screaming sound that almost fucking here popped my ears. It felt so loud that it could break your eardrums. Then the application just terminated. It just went to my desktop, and a message popped up in that said some random characters with no particular pattern to them. It was more like a garbled mess. It just left me startled, thinking, what the fucking hell just happened? What was that? Now whenever I try to open the application and back up, it just goes to a black screen, then white screen, and the red white stripes, and plays the same distorted screen. Then closes itself, leaving the same non-physical message after with that experience, I never torrented another game. I'm very pissed that it's a sick fuck. What would it make such a fucking thing? That screaming noise will forever be stuck in my fucking head. I hope that someday the plants in our neighborhood would stop dying. Sega Legacy, the unreleased console. In 2006, Sega was planning on releasing their first console since the Dreamcast. The console was similar to the current Nintendo Wii, except the controller looked a bit more like a Dreamcast controller. The 7th generation console was called Sega Legacy. The first and only game ever worked on for the Legacy was a new game to go along with the console called Sonic Legacy. It was pretty much the original Sonic the Hedgehog, except the graphics were in 3D, and there was a first-person perspective if enabled. Sounds like a cool console, huh? Everything was going better than expected. Before they announced it as finished, Sega gave the Sega Legacy to 5 its employees who had kids. They wanted the kids to test out the consoles and see how they liked it. 2 of the families refused, but the other 3 were more than happy to test it out. Sega even promised to give them a free console afterwards. 2 days later, once the employees, each days would not be given, 8-year-old son was playing Sonic Legacy after he had gone to bed at 10 p.m. He woke up at random and turned on the Legacy. A few minutes later, he walked into his parents' room. His eyes all widened, and then he had an eerie smile. "What is it, son?" asked the father. The boy stood there with a big grin on his face. "Bachnik," he said in a raspy voice. The voice was distorted and muffled. Suddenly, the lights went out. The power was out all night long. In the morning, the mother went to wake their son for school. He wasn't there. Nobody ever found him. Similar occurrences happened to the other families. Sega was alarmed and visited each of the families. The families returned the consoles. The second employees and programs decided to play Sonic Legacy to see if it had anything to do with anything. The cheerful title screen ran. Since the program's created the game, they easily went through the game. However, during the final boss battle with Robotnik, something odd happened. The audio began to sound distorted. Suddenly, the game paused. Sonic began to smile. It went to a cutscene. The programmers and employees stared at each other in shock. The big shock was that no Sonic game had ever contained a cutscene in the middle of a final boss. A cartoon Sonic sat down on a rock. He was looking at something glowing. The glowing stopped. It then cut to the body of Robotnik. The eyes were torn out. Some hair was pulled out. He was bleeding from wrinkles. His nose was jerked to the right. Sonic began to cut open the body, and he put the body over his. Sonic now looked like Robotnik, and then showed another Sonic running around. The Sonic dressed up as Robotnik gave an evil smile. The workers and employees were shook in terror. The fact that Sonic defeats his enemy, becomes Robotnik, and gets killed by another Sonic boggled their minds. It was a terrifying chain of suicide. All the events after the cutscene finished, are unknown. All that is known is that there was another cutscene afterwards. From the other room, people claimed to hear a man speaking in Russian in a distorted voice. When they came back again the room, they had found everyone lying there dead, with their eyes ripped out. However, 2 of the employees survived. One is blind, and is confined in a wheelchair, or for life. He refuses to speak to anyone besides his family and close friends. The other employee is able to see, but he has never spoken about his experience. He was unable to be outside without someone with him, and is said to have recurring nightmares. All copies of the Sonic Legacy game were said to be destroyed. This led to the cancellation of the Sega Legacy console in 2009. An active video game bootlegger found a Sega Legacy. The scary part is that he was able to play Sonic Legacy on the console without the CD. A few days later, he was found dead in his closet, where he had hung himself. So this is just a warning to all people curious. Don't try to find the Sega Legacy unless you're either willing to risk your life or suffer from recurring nightmares and demons.